We need to talk about Arsenal because the title race is over for them. Liverpool are 13 points clear. They've lost one game this season. Arsenal are not catching them. And I think the title race has been over for a while. I think Havertz's injury probably cemented it. I think, yes, Liverpool dropped some points to Villa and Everton and maybe had Arsenal beat West Ham, and Liverpool lost to Manchester City or dropped points to one of Man City or Newcastle. It's a different story. But Liverpool are top of the league. Liverpool deserve to be top of the league. They've been comfortably better than Arsenal this season from the first day of the season up until now. And I hate to say this, Liverpool deserve the title. I know a lot of Arsenal fans are saying if it wasn't for injuries, they'd have won the league. I don't know. If it wasn't for injuries, there'd be very few points between Liverpool and Arsenal right now. Arsenal would definitely have more points. But let's not take away from the fact that Liverpool have been excellent this season. Now, one of Arsenal's big issues is injuries. But I'm going to tell you my problem with Arsenal. Now, my biggest problem with Arsenal is the fact that I don't want Liverpool to win the league and equal Manchester United's 20 league titles. And as much as I dislike Arsenal, I wanted you to at least win a few games and keep the pressure on Liverpool. So at least I didn't have to concede the fact in February that Liverpool will win the league. But I want to have an honest conversation about Arsenal, what their issues are, because I think injuries have been a massive blow. And if it wasn't for the injuries, of course, they're going to be a lot closer to Liverpool. They haven't had any luck. But I do think there's areas that Arsenal are getting wrong and need to improve. I think Arsenal are predictable. I think Arteta's had all these injuries and he's not adapting to these injuries. He's doing the same thing over and over again that's not working. There's lack of transitional threat. There's lack of positional freedom. Arsenal don't have that moments player like Salah who can win a game. Bruno's been winning. Man United's last 6 goals have come through Bruno Fernandes set pieces. Liverpool, Salah's involved in nearly every goal they do. Arsenal, you don't know who's scoring that goal. And that is massively because Havertz and Saka, who are the best goal scorers, are out. Jesus and Martinelli, who arguably are very big threats, although been hot and cold the last year, are out, which means it's sort of Trossard, who's probably the biggest goal threat. Wanyeri's good. Sterling, you can't rely on him. Arsenal very limited in attack. But I do think there's times where Arteta could change his system or adapt more. Arne Slot's adapted in games, and I think that's one of the reasons Liverpool are top. And I also think that Arsenal are so well drilled, they have a lack of freedom, which makes them more predictable. They don't just get the ball and run with it or a transition threat. They always have to build a certain way. They always have to play a certain way. They're so well instructed that it becomes a little bit predictable. So when it comes to the final third and they've got to do something themselves and they've got to come up with their own ideas, they lack that. A big problem is I think Martin Odegaard's gone quiet this season. I thought there was times last season when Martin Odegaard was unreal. I think Martin Odegaard's a good player. But Martin Odegaard has gone missing this season. When Bukayo Saka has got injured, Odegaard disappeared. And when you need creativity and you need to break a low block, Odegaard isn't there. So I'm going to go through my notes on Arsenal. Are Arsenal still title contenders? No. Tactical issues, I think Arsenal are too robotic. I know Arteta isn't changing tactics, and you can say, well, he's had injuries, he's not got many players available, what can he do with his tactics? But I think you could adapt more to those injuries. Pep has signed Omar Mamouche. Omar Mamouche did really well in a 4-4-2 at Frankfurt. Now, he run it with him and Etike. Pep's now adapted to more of a 4-4-2 to get the best out of Mamouche. You've got to look at it like Pep adapting, Slot adapting. Odegaard's been the biggest disappointment. Look, I get, it's not, other players haven't been top, but I think, Gabriel's had an unbelievable season. I think he's probably Arsenal's player of the season for me. I know Ben White's been out injured and that's a big issue. But Odegaard, when you need him most, when Saka's out, when you need goals, he's not even creating the chances. And he's not even getting that influence on the game. Whereas if you look at someone like Bruno Fernandes, Man United are crap, but our last 6 goals have come from Bruno Fernandes. He can just come and produce a moment out of nothing. And I think that's what Liverpool have. Gap post Salah that can produce a moment out of nothing. Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden for City can produce a moment out of nothing. Odegaard doesn't seem to have that in his locker. Cole Palmer did do it. He's dipped off a bit where he could produce something out of nothing. I think that's something that Arsenal lack. There's injuries, lack of adaptability, and Liverpool have just been very good. It's not just injury lack. I think there is disrespect to Liverpool of, if Liverpool had so-and-so and so-and-so injured, would they be top of the league? Liverpool had a lot of injuries last season. They took that title race until March where they collapsed, but they took that title race with injuries. They won the Carabao Cup with injuries. Yes, Arsenal have had injuries, and I think if Arsenal didn't have those injuries, it could be 1 or 2 points between Liverpool and Arsenal, but I still think Liverpool would be in that title race because they've been unbelievable this season. Because when everyone was fit at the beginning of the season for Arsenal, I still looked at Arsenal and said they need an attacker. I think everybody looked at Arsenal, even when Saka was fit, and thought they need another attacker. Now, I think Arsenal's biggest issue is a lack of game winners. They have a lack of transition threat, a lack of 1v1s. I'm going to take you on, which is why Ben White and Calafiori, actually, when they get forward, they provide with a bit more. They lack individual brilliance in attack. I think there's too many players at Arsenal that are system reliant. They follow the system, they follow Arteta's instructions to a T, but when it gets to the fun third and it's not about a system, it's actually a little bit about player flair, like Salah. Do something on your own, dribble around, score a worldie, put in a first time cross. Declan Rice at the end of the Forest game, just put that cross in first time. They lack that. Odegaard's been missing in key moments. You need him most. Odegaard's been poor this season. Maybe he's not fully fit. I don't know what's wrong with Odegaard. Every now and then he'll show 10 minutes glimpses in games of what he can do, but he's been poor this season. Saka's been out. He's not creating. You're not breaking down low blocks. Odegaard's been poor. His expected assists and his expected goals since injury is poor. He's not contributing enough. And Arsenal are not breaking down low blocks. And Arsenal are predictable. And teams can sit deep against Arsenal and frustrate them. The last 2 games you guys have not scored. The minute a team comes out and gives you a bit of space in behind, Arsenal can feast. Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, they gave you so much space. You won that game 5-1 because you can feast. Like Arsenal, if you give them space, unbelievable team. Arsenal, if everybody fit, unbelievable team. But this Arsenal right now, it is poor because of injuries, because of the struggle to break down low block. Saka's the only player for me. Saka's a world-class player. I think Saka's one of the most underrated players, actually, weirdly. Has that flair and unpredictability. One, yeah, he could potentially have that trait in the future. He's shown elements of it. Martinelli in the 22-23 season had elements of that. And I think now Arsenal play against low blocks. Martinelli struggles more, whereas I think Arsenal got given a bit more space in the 22-23 season because people didn't expect Arsenal to be that good. But I think Saka's the only player with that flair and unpredictability that's going to get a goal out of nothing. I thought Odegaard had that in him, but he's proven this season he doesn't, or he needs Saka around him. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying this online, but are Arsenal overcoached? Are they too well structured? Are they too well drilled that they lack that improvisation? They follow the system so well, they build out so well, they follow every instruction so well that when it gets to the final third and you've got to improvise, they lack that. Because I go back to an interview Varane did a couple of weeks ago with The Athletic, and he said at Real Madrid, sometimes they were just told to express themselves, go with the flow. Sometimes there wasn't just these proper drilled in tactics of Real Madrid in these big games, in these Champions League finals. It was like, you're a good team, do what you can and express yourself. And that's Real Madrid was the most successful club in the world in that period. Look at what Ronaldo did, And you look at sort of Liverpool with Salah, United with Bruno, Arsenal lacking Havertz did a bit this season, but bar Saka, that goal and assist player who can work outside the system, and if the system needs to be changed or adapted, they can still get goals and assists. I think Arteta's positional play helps control games, but maybe it limits creativity. Because when you look at what Varane said about Real Madrid, it wasn't all just about tactics. It was just about, well, they know they've got the ability, so go play yourselves. And maybe Arsenal need to do more of that, especially with these injuries. Now, I do think Arsenal are good in terms of dominating possession, build up players good. They can build out from the back well. They're one of the best teams in the league and one of the most well-coached teams in the league. And I don't want to sound like this video just to dig at Arsenal. I think Arsenal bring in the top striker. They're easily, and they get a lot of injuries, they're easy in that title race next season. I think they can still win a title next season. I think Arteta can win a title next season. Like, Arsenal have a brilliant squad, but they're not as good as Liverpool. Liverpool can score on transitions. Arsenal have zero in this area. Like, nowhere near as much impact as Liverpool when it comes to building fast attacks, transitions, shots off the end of transitions. Arsenal were quite predictable in the way that they build slowly, and it's a bit boring to watch. At half-time, you'll see Slot adapting tactics if Liverpool aren't playing well and are 1-0 down, and Liverpool come back in the second half. Arsenal, when they're 1-0 down, I think you guys struggle to come back more because you're struggling to break down low blocks. And I feel like Arteta maybe needs to try something. I get the Mourinho striker experiment, but it feels like it's not working. But then I also have sympathy for Arteta because it's like, how can you try anything new when you can't really change the players out because in attack, you've got no one. But I think Slot adapts more. Pep's adapted with Marmoush coming in. I think that's an issue there that Arsenal have. I know there's injuries, but I think they could adapt more. Liverpool last season, this was when Liverpool was in the title race. They didn't have Salah, Nunes, Trent, Szoboszlai, Jota, Curtis Jones, Matt, Thiago, Alisson, and Gravenberch for a point in the season. This was end of January, early February. And Liverpool didn't get out that tight race till it came to sort of the March international break. Liverpool dropped out the tight race much later, and they were playing well and winning games with this many injuries, and they were playing through at times. So while injuries have massively impacted Arsenal, red cards, referee decisions, nothing's gone Arsenal's way. They've been massively impacted by so many decisions and injuries. Do not use that as the excuse for why Liverpool won the league. Liverpool won the league because they're the best team in the league. Arsenal maybe could be closer to Liverpool. It could be more of a challenge. It could go to the final day if Arsenal had everybody fit. But it's not like Arsenal would be sitting 10 points clear of Liverpool right now if Arsenal had everybody fit. Arsenal would probably be nearer Liverpool, but Liverpool have done amazing this season. Arsenal haven't been top of the league for a single day this season. Even when everyone was fit this season and Saka was fit, I still looked at Arsenal and thought they need a striker. They probably need a left winger because Martinelli's not been consistent enough. And you know, the deserve to win meters, you're dominating games, you're dominating possession, you're doing enough to win these games. And I'll say that, and you've had decisions go against you 100%. But Liverpool was still better than you at that time at the start of the season before all the injuries. And I think confidence seems to have dropped as Liverpool maybe have pulled ahead, injuries increased. I think the Havertz injury was the final nail in the coffin. But yeah, Arsenal have been unlucky, and I think with a striker signing, they'll be back next year. Probably a striker left winger. I think they'll be back next year. They might bring Superman in because Jorginho and Partey are going to go. Like, I would not write off Arsenal next year when they've got more players fit. But because they've been hit hard. They've been hit hard. They need a striker. They arguably need a left winger. But there is other issues. They play at a slow tempo. They're not the most fun to watch. They need to move the ball faster. They have too many touches. Just put that first time cross in Declan Rice. Against West Ham and Forest, you looked better in the first half, but in the second half, you were a little bit predictable. You were too central. You need transition runners. You need people out wide. You need a bit of unpredictability. That's what I think. And I just wrote some other notes in general that I actually think that Calafiori and Ben White can provide some attacking threat. I think your rest defence is strong. Defensively, you've been pretty brilliant this season. Your midfield's been solid. It's breaking teams down, finishing chances and scoring consistently, which I think are Arsenal's problems. Now, Arsenal fans, do let me know down below what you think your problems are. Let me know your thoughts on Odegaard and more. Thank you for watching. Bye.